What does it mean to leave a legacy behind? Many would argue this is the long-lasting impact that a person, idea, or object leaves, further instilling future participants to reflect on and remember the important achievements that an individual has ascertained throughout their lifetime. Through the viewpoint of a parent in particular, a legacy is something that is often looked at fondly. Parents want their children to succeed at any cost necessary. Their children are their legacy, carrying on their last name and further ascertaining that they live up to the family's impact through their actions or deeds. This can be an enormous pressure, especially towards individuals who want to forge their own path ahead and strike an individualistic role within their own lives. And often, many individuals have no interest in carrying on their family's legacy, rather preferring to carry their own successes and achievements under their specific name only. The idea of a legacy is prevalent throughout many distinct viewpoints and roles within society and art in particular, and this is especially true for the art of filmmaking. Many movies of old have left an indelible mark upon not just the art form of cinema itself, but upon pop culture, and this is clear to see. Many films are studied as prime examples within the respective genres, showcasing raw talent and genuine artistry that is taught and instilled onto future filmmakers in order for these artists to carry their skills into future projects within their industry. Films do, in a sense, have a specific legacy. Many films of old are remembered fondly for what they specifically achieve within the space, and this can be a quite special occurrence, especially for specific filmmakers and ideas. However, what occurs when the reverse of this happens? What happens when a film doesn't leave a legacy behind? What happens when a film fades into obscurity, neither talked about nor remembered fondly enough, regardless of what it manages to achieve within a specific role in space? This happens more often than not, as there are countless films released every year alone that manage not to make an impact upon the art community or audience members, fading into blurred obscurity as if they never existed in the first place. This can be a genuine travesty, as oftentimes there can be genuine shining examples of cinema that unfortunately sink underneath the surface just as easily, either due to a lack of audience attention or misconstrued opinions toward the piece that sink its reputation. And this can occur more often than not within the blockbuster sphere of film alone. This, however, makes specific sense within this context, as the blockbuster aspect of filmmaking is not exactly bursting with originality. Oftentimes, audiences are forced to sit through countless sequels, reboots, and remakes of countless past film properties of old, which lack depth or nuance in order to stand apart from their original properties. This can often lead to blatant disinterest or just lack of attention to these movies in particular, as it has often become commonplace to expect these films not to live up to the massive expectations that are placed upon them before release. However, there can be the rare exception where a sequel, reboot, or remake manages to stand equally with the original property. Not in a way that overshadows the original, but complements and adds further depth to the first film in such a meaningful and nuanced fashion. And this is exactly the case with a blockbuster reboot for a major film property that first released in 2010. And this film is Tron Legacy. Tron Legacy is a sequel/reboot to the classic 1982 film Tron, which starred Jeff Bridges and was a revolutionary science fiction film upon the time of its release. It was unlike anything audiences had seen up to that time before in the industry, and its impact upon the sci-fi genre itself cannot be overstated. In creating the story of a computer programmer named Kevin Flynn, who transported himself into the world of his computerized video game, director Steven Lisberger combined live-action elements and computer animation to create a well-realized and stylized blend between the two that managed to make an impact upon audiences who went out to see the film upon its release. Although the film was a moderate-sized success at the box office, it has truly reached so-called cult classic status over the years as more and more fans flock to the original to see a piece of 80s cinema history that has continued to stand apart from the competition. And this is perhaps why it was so shocking to fans of the film when Disney announced that they were proceeding to greenlight a sequel and reboot to Tron back in around 2005. Bringing on a first-time filmmaker, Joseph Kosinski, and attaching screenwriters Brian Klugman and Lee Sternthal to the project as well, the movie was an entirely clean slate for all involved in the production and conception of the project. I'm sure a question that was on the minds of many involved in the making of the film itself at first was, how do we go about making a sequel to Tron in a world where the so-called far-fetched sci-fi elements have almost become a commonplace reality in some instances? And another question that I'm sure hung over the heads of all involved was, will anyone care about or even go to see a Tron sequel in theaters? Well, it seems that enthusiasm was all but felt in 2009, when Disney finally announced the title of the film to an eager panel of audience members at the San Diego Comic-Con. In the months and weeks leading up to the film's release, many box office analysts argue back and forth as to whether Tron Legacy, the aptly titled name of the sequel film in question, would be able to make a definitive impact at the box office, or whether it would be a floundering film property of old that failed to stick a landing in the current box office slate. Upon its release on December 17, 2010, and throughout its entire theatrical run, the film managed to gross around $410 million on a $170 million budget, which was a solid commercial response to the film. It seemed that fans of Tron were in fact flocking to the theaters after all, seeing the film on the big screen, and once again losing themselves into the world of the grid in spectacular fashion. Yet, although many people were seeing the movie itself, was anyone anyone actually liking the movie? The answer, unfortunately, is not really. The film received a mixed to overtly negative response upon the critical wavelength, with many audiences failing to lose themselves into the magic of this well-realized world and criticizing the film and what it achieved for a variety of reasons. Lots of emphasis was placed upon the visual effects of the film, which were proclaimed as the highlight of the movie overall. But lots of criticism was lauded onto practically every other element of the story itself and the film in general. Just like that, Tron Legacy had managed to make an impact upon the box office overall, but in terms of its legacy in question, it was slowly starting to sink below the surface among past box office critical failures of old. Flash forward to now, the year 2025. In October of this year, Disney is once again pinning their faith into the world of Tron, as the third installment of the series, Tron Ares, is set to race into multiplexes on October 10th. Bringing about an all-new cast of characters, and promising to bring the computerized action into the real world with this installment, it's a film that is once again testing the waters to see if Disney's self-made franchise of theme park attractions, animated television shows, and other superfluous marketing materials can actually make an impact. For this reason, I felt it was about time to finally watch Tron Legacy for myself. I had seen the original Tron a few years ago, quite by accident. As was the case with many modern audience members, I had discovered the original film while scrolling through Disney Plus one day, and I appreciated a lot of what that film achieved from a thematic and visual sense, even if the effects didn't necessarily hold up in this modern-day visual effects space. Yet the sequel Tron Legacy always intrigued me, and I had put off watching it as such. Listening to the cultural response surrounding the film, with lots of overt negativity and criticism lauded onto the film itself, I was hesitant to sit through the movie and its runtime. After all, there is no worse feeling than sitting through a film that you know is apparently bad. Yet, I had finally decided that it was time to get through it, to witness what audiences first had in theaters in 2010, and to prepare myself fully for the Ares experience over the upcoming months. I was lucky enough to have gotten my hands on a 3D Blu-ray copy of the film a few months ago at a thrift store, but I had never pressed play on the disc. And so, one night recently, I finally broke open the seal on the case, put the disc into my DVD player, placed my 3D glasses firmly atop the bridge of my nose, and pressed play on the remote, gritting and mentally preparing myself for whatever it was I was about to experience. And I walked away from the film absolutely stunned. As I sat in a delirious and confused haze post-movie, with my thoughts still racing at 1,000 miles a minute, I arrived at one definitive and sure conclusion as any I had ever had in my film criticism profession. We as audiences were wrong about Tron Legacy. This is not a bad movie. Far from it, in fact. What Joseph Kosinski and his team have achieved throughout the 2-hour runtime is nothing short of sheer movie-going magic, transporting audiences into the thick of a slick and computerized world and throwing them straight into the bombastic and digital action. It's a rampant, cutthroat, and action-packed flick that never slows up in intensity and keeps the foot on the gas pedal until well after the credits roll. Yet, beyond just the superficial intensity and vibrancy of the film and its action in particular, there is something I genuinely noticed about Tron Legacy that solidified my love for the film overall. And this is because it is one of the only blockbusters of its kind out there. This is the rare blockbuster that showcases depth, artistry, and nuance behind so many of the thematic choices and moments here. Clear care was put into every second of the film's runtime, devoting time and effort not just to honoring the original Tron film and the legacy it has left behind on science fiction cinema in particular, but also in crafting a well-realized and well-rounded story and thematic structure that easily stands apart from its competition and becomes its own unique thing. Indeed, it seems that the world was not kind enough to Tron Legacy upon its release, and such a fact is deeply unfortunate. Who knows what the blockbuster space would have looked like post-success for this film in particular? Would we have gotten nuanced and insightful sequels and reboots that are able to stand apart in their own rights compared to the mindless slop that has populated the box office recently? Alas, such an alternate reality seems unachievable at this point. Yet, a film like Tron Legacy is an insightful and impactful reminder of what could have been, emboldening and exemplifying the strengths of the modern-day blockbuster, and showcasing just how well these movies can mix rampant and big-budget action spectacles with a thought-provoking and nuanced meditation on key ideas in relation to technology, artificial intelligence, and above all, what legacy truly means. Tron Legacy opens as any grandiose action-packed story does, through a distinct lens. As we listen to the narration of Kevin Flynn as he dictates and narrates his experiences traveling through the digitized world of the grid, as fantastic visuals and a booming electro-infused score back it, we slowly peel back these external layers to reveal that Kevin is indeed telling the story to the most important person in his life, his son Sam. To Sam, this story is the stuff of legends, the kind of tale that most kids at his age dream of hearing. And his unbridled love and respect for his dad fuels his belief and hope in a world such as the grid existing in real life. As Kevin promises his son at one moment in their stories, he will one day take Sam with him to the grid to show him all the treasures and wonders that await in a realm outside of our own. Yet tragedy soon strikes before such an occurrence can happen inside of Sam's life. Kevin Flynn goes missing. The famed CEO of the technology company Encom disappears off of the face of the earth, leaving no trace behind. found. Investigations are launched, suspects are questioned, and forensics are investigated, but to no avail. The news shocks the world, as it seems unbelievable how a major technology proponent could leave without any context or clue as to his whereabouts. Yet this quite possibly hits hardest of all for young Sam, who struggles with and grapples to understand why his father could have possibly left him alone in this world. Was all that talk of going to the grid together another story of his? And if his father would lie to him about that in particular, why should he hold any credence as to his father's spectacular stories throughout his lifetime? As Sam ages years into the future, we see the toll that his father's mysterious disappearance has had on his life. Sam is rebellious, sure, and carefree, embracing recklessness almost as a pastime, ashamed at what his father's company Encom has become after Flynn's disappearance, as greedy corporate executives seek to make more profit over their latest innovations rather than sharing the gift of technology with the world as Kevin sought to do. Sam seeks to sabotage the company at any chance he can get, interfering with their plans as only a reckless young adult could. This is the first venture at which the film grapples with the inherent idea of legacy, as we see Sam, an individual tasked with enormous pressure from his dad's past investors and friends to uphold the company of Encom and secure his future, as he seeks to ignore and shun the very idea that he must follow in his father's footsteps. This seems to be in relation to resentment still harbored from his dad's disappearance, as Sam is unsure of what the point of Encom would be with the specific guidance and finds he could not fill the void that Kevin Flynn has left behind. After Sam is alerted to the presence of a page from his father by an old friend Alan Bradley, Sam travels to Kevin's old arcade, stumbling through the dust-filled and antiquated space until he finds a particular video game console that piques his interest. An older video game named Tron. After discovering his father's old office tucked in a dark hidden alcove, Sam is shocked to find that he is soon transported into the world of his father's video game in jarring fashion. And it's not long until the residents of the grid, both good and bad, are alerted to his presence. You see, in talking about the centralized theme of a film like Tron Legacy, one has to analyze many of the key character dynamics that make up the film's plot in such a pivotal fashion. One might not expect a film like Tron Legacy to withhold complex characterization within its action-coded exterior. Yet this is why a film like this ultimately works so well. After Sam is taken into the grid and forced to partake inside of the deadly games, in which contestants are pitted against each other in violent disc wars, Sam is introduced to the cruel and unfeeling leader of the grid, one who rules with an authoritarian grip on the residents of the digital realm. His own father. Yet, as Sam begins to uncover the truth, he realizes that this oddly artificial and digital program resembles his father, yet ultimately is not the man he knew and loved so long ago. This is because, as Sam shortly learns, the program is a digitized copy of his father named Clue. As Kevin reveals to Sam at a key point later on in the film, he spent most of his time inside of the world of the grid, crafting a world of perfection and idyllic bliss that he could not wait to share with the world. Such a burden, however, was too much for just one man to shoulder, and so he enlisted the help of a ruling program in his own image, named Clue, to help him craft such a world. As the two of them sought to build a perfect utopia in which humanity could thrive in a world unlike our own, the pursuit of perfection proved to be too powerful of a force, especially within the hands of a capable program such as Clue. This central antagonistic dynamic between Kevin and Clue throughout the film is one of the first examples of that recurring theme of legacy and impact that runs rampant throughout the film's runtime to such an effective and complex degree. We are shown in great detail the entire backstory, in which Clue sought to control the grid, where the arrival of isomorphic algorithms, nicknamed ISOs, was seen as unnatural and chaotic through the eyes of a program that was created and crafted to make a perfect world. This causes Clue to retain and lock into his programming, yet at a drastic cost. You see, in order to make a quote-unquote perfect world, he must destroy anything standing in the way of that perfection. As we see within the film, that means the ISOs and even Kevin himself. Betraying his creator and killing fellow program Tron, who worked alongside the two figures in their quest to craft that world, Kevin is banished to the outer realm of the grid, never stepping foot onto the main platform of the world again, and destining himself to be banished for eternity with no way home in sight. The main dynamic struggle between Kevin and Clue guides so much of the film's dramatic stakes and tension, especially in key areas throughout. You see, Clue has been searching for Kevin since his disappearance, never relenting or letting up in his search to finish the last figure standing in the way of his program perfection. Kevin, on the other hand, lives in a similar fear of what he created. You see, Clue is a physical representation of all of the hopes, fears, and dreams of Kevin throughout his lifetime, through such a prevalent and antagonist-based lens that forces Kevin to confront these fears and hopes head-on. In his pursuit to craft a perfect world, Kevin realized that the confines of so-called perfection often wipe out the elements that make our world so meaningful and vibrant in every second. However, Clue was created in a time where Kevin didn't realize this to the fullest potential, which results in organized destruction and chaos hiding under the guise of progress. Through this characterization between Kevin and Clue throughout the film, as Clue continues in his quest and mission to wipe out his opponent at any cost necessary, we are treated to an idea concerning legacy that remains prevalent and impactful outside of the confines of the film itself. Our legacy is is not solely placed in the physical or symbolic representations we leave behind, or the work we solely achieve throughout our time on Earth, but rather through the connections and relationships we form that create something wholly meaningful and impactful within our own lives. Kevin was so obsessed with crafting a world that could be a benefit to humanity that he ignored the sense of relationship and family that stood right in front of him the whole time, namely his younger son. It is through this unique lens that Tron Legacy first broaches that sense of status and achievement that remains truly memorable and impactful from the first frame to the last. Through the lens of the film's unique antagonist, we as audiences are treated to an exact inverse of the character's current mentality and present state. We are thrown not just into a physical confrontation between these characters, but an emotional and psychological confrontation as well. As Kevin directly fights back against the physical form of Clue, he is simultaneously fighting back against his own direct fears and anxieties of past in relation to his work. And this is exemplified in such a prevalent and impactful way throughout the film itself. Of course, this complex exploration into legacy is broached elsewhere throughout the film in spades, due in part to the nuanced characterization and dynamics within the film and its runtime. To see this centralized theme explored further, we must take a look at the characterization of the secondary antagonist of the film, the Rinsler, who is indeed perhaps one of the most complex characters within a single blockbuster film in the last 10 years alone. When we are first introduced to Rinsler in the film, when Sam is brought into the disc game's arena and forced to contend in battle with the mysterious figure, we are treated to a menacing and quite imposing character who hides his emotion behind a dark reflective mask. We as audiences are not able to get a proper read on Rinsler's thoughts, feelings, or emotions from a physical standpoint, which can lead to a quite disorienting experience at first as audiences contend with a shadowy and haunting antagonist who seems to match Sam's fighting skills hand in hand throughout their disc battle. However, once Rinsler knocks Sam down once and for all and prepares to finish him off, he watches as a small drop of blood exits a wound on Sam's arm and drops to the floor of the arena. This causes Rinsler to hesitate, contemplating his next move as he sees Sam for what he truly is, a user. However, we have not seen this type of hesitation occur within other programs on the grid, who view Sam as their equal and never question his inherent role inside of this digital world, because they are not conditioned to an idea of an outside user traveling into the digital world. This indicates that Rinsler has prior experience with a user before, and the reason is soon revealed in such dramatic and capable fashion. It is revealed to audiences that Rinsler is in fact the titular security program that was once known as Tron, an imposing character of violent force who fought to protect the users inside of the video game. As we watch in flashback, as Clue performs mass genocide and eliminates programs as he sees fit, we are informed that Clue never in fact killed Tron, but rather reprograms and reconditioned him into an imposing force that strikes first and asks questions later. This flies in the face of all that Kevin has experienced within the film, as later on in the movie, Kevin laments to himself what Tron, once a heroic and inspired character, has become. Yet this isn't to say that Rinsler does not still harbor a remnant of a feeling of who he once was deep down below. As we see exemplified in the moment where the Rinsler could have easily killed Kevin, he hesitates without striking. Somewhere deep down inside of this program, the innate thought of a user causes Rinsler to question his situation and contemplate his role inside of the digital world. As the film progresses, we further see this complex characterization shift as Rinsler struggles to connect his current role as Clue's right-hand force with his past life as a protector of the digital realm. This is perfectly accentuated in the final flight sequence, in which Clue and Rinsler chase after the trio of Kevin, Sam, and the ISO known as Cora, as they race to the portal back to the real world. A quick glance between Kevin and the Rinsler in this moment tells the audience all they need to know about the dynamic on display. As the Rinsler is called upon by Clue to finally finish the job, and the light jet of Sam, Kevin, and Cora is caught directly in his crosshairs, he once again hesitates. Faint echoes of his final words to Kevin as he sacrificed himself to save him ring in his mind, and the impending situation causes Rinsler to finally make a definitive decision for himself. With one final promise to fight for the users, he crashes his plane into Clue's, sending both characters into a downward spiral. Tron has once again sacrificed himself to save the users, further completing his character arc and signifying yet another complex exploration of legacy that the film explores with capable grace. The film argues in the case of Rinsler/Tron that our actions do not dictate what our legacy is, but we personally can. By choosing to sacrifice himself in those final moments, Tron is once again making the choice to stand by his moral programming, which is completed in such a capable flourish as the orange neon lines that have covered Rinsler's suit throughout the film fade and flicker to the neutral blue neon of the morally good characters as he sinks to the bottom of a digital sea, once again signifying that Rinsler has become Tron again in the final moments of his existence. In leaving his legacy behind, Rinsler, or Tron, is choosing to make his impact positive in nature, truly calling to mind a complex angle to this characterization that is deeply felt within the film and its runtime. Yet ultimately, the centralized angle in terms of the exploration of legacy can best be explored and described through the dynamic between Kevin and Sam throughout the film. The sequence within the film in which both characters meet for the first time in a few years is full of so much dramatic tension and poignancy throughout, and this is instilled for both characters. For Sam, he imagined he'd never be able to see his father again, that Kevin truly abandoned his son in favor of something more grandiose in life and had left without saying goodbye. Yet in this moment, he's is able to reconnect with his father in the very place that had been imagined for him in his childhood stories of old. For Kevin, this meeting is perhaps the first semblance of the outside world he has felt in a truly long time, as he never imagined he'd be able to make it back to the real world. Yet with this chance encounter, his entire viewpoint changes. He realizes that with the arrival of Sam might lie the key to escaping back to the real world, and he jumps at the opportunity to work with his son on their way back. Yet, as is the case with many strained relationships in question, the dynamic between Kevin and Sam feels awkward and stunted at first. We get the sense that there are vast disparities and puzzle pieces missing from the relationship between these characters, and these manifest in character-driven moments that showcase a raw and vulnerable side of their circumstances. For example, both Kevin and Sam have varying ideas on how to get back to the portal and back to the real world. Sam wants to run headfirst in a madcap dash, fighting his way through and ensuring they make it to the portal before it closes for good. On the other hand, Kevin is insistent on the idea of patience and stealth in relation to this endeavor, seeking to live under the radar and escaping back without a learning clue to their whereabouts. These different viewpoints and dynamics lead to a characterization clash between the two that manifests in quite blatant and visceral moments at times. The relationship between Kevin and Sam within the film is not perfect, and far from it. It mirrors the highs and lows of many parental-child relationships, and often in quite vibrant and realistic ways. Kevin and Sam argue, fight, and spar over their individualistic choices and paths in life. Yet the cause of these arguments is out of a profound sense of love and respect for the other, and about the desire to see the other's well-being succeed at any cost necessary. This is showcased so poignantly on the scene aboard the Skytrain, in which Kevin and Sam recollect and reconnect about their past lives back in the real world and the time that Kevin has been missing. In filling in his father on the whereabouts of his past family members, the advent of the internet, and other historical events, Sam is, in a sense, providing a mirror to the same thing that Kevin did in the beginning of the film and telling Sam a story about a distant world. In the same way as Sam said he wanted to see the grid within those bedtime stories, Kevin confides in Sam that he would love to see the current world, at which point Sam tells him he will. It's in this moment that the dynamic between Sam and Kevin is exemplified and portrayed at its strongest degree imaginable. Yet the real heart of the relationship between the two characters occurs within the pride and accomplishment that Kevin feels towards his estranged son in the end of the film, which ultimately helps reconcile his inner guilt and provides an opportunity of sacrifice in which he can carry on his legacy. Within this portion of the film, with the threat of Clue escaping to the real world hanging in the balance, Kevin makes the distinct decision to stay behind in order to distract Clue, sending Cora and Sam through the portal before it closes. The intent and purpose of this is clear. Kevin's legacy lies in Sam. No matter how much confrontation these two characters might face in a relationship with each other, and no matter how much Sam wants to deviate from the path that Kevin has been on his entire life, Kevin realizes that the core idea of who he is and what he wants to impart into the world will live on within Sam, which causes Kevin to make the selfless sacrifices of his own well-being in order to provide Sam a passageway towards the real world. Yet this complex characterization is carried on as Sam journeys back to the present day, where he finally understands his specific role within his father's legacy, and agrees to carry it on by leading NCOM and providing a technological opportunity for all citizens of the world. And this is where the true genius of Tron Legacy lies. The title of the film is quite apt indeed, as beyond just the superficial use of legacy to describe the sequel/reboot from a contextual standpoint, it further highlights and intensifies the central dynamics and core concepts of the film in such a prevalent and impactful way. This is a rare blockbuster in both form and execution. A film that understands how complex character dynamics and dramatic moments can highlight and further intensify the action spectacle on display. On this level, Tron Legacy truly soars as a film. It's the type of blockbuster film that makes you contemplate so many nuanced ideas on the merits of artificial intelligence and technology in our day-to-day lives, and has aged incredibly well in comparison to similar films of this caliber. That this thought-provoking complexity is further highlighted by a bombastic action spectacle and a stirring music score by Daft Punk is just the icing on the cake here. Watching a film such as Tron Legacy and comparing it to the modern-day big-budget epics of the current film industry, I was left pondering what exactly happened to this facet of filmmaking. When did we lose an intellectual or thought-provoking side to movies of this caliber? And what is stopping us from instilling our modern blockbusters with the same spirit of old? Only time will tell how the next installment of Tron will fare upon its release in October. But when analyzing this film, it's hard not to feel a twinge of sadness at how unfairly misaligned this film is upon the grand scheme of blockbuster filmmaking, even if it is not inherently a perfect movie in every sense of the word. We use the term underrated quite a lot as a descriptor in our current film industry, so much so that it often loses its meaning and value in situations where such a descriptor truly fits a film property. This is why I will say that Tron Legacy is without a doubt a criminally underrated film. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this review on my channel. If you're new around here and you like the content you see, don't forget to click that subscribe button down below, like the video, and turn on push notifications. Also, leave comment suggestions down below for future video, essay, and review topics. With that being said, until next time, this is Mitchell signing off. Peace out.